there's opportunities in every crisis. So I do want to, because when I used to be a financial advisor, and I started literally started my career during the Great Recession. It was actually a good time to start because I had nowhere to go but up. And I was putting clients in mutual funds and 529 plans and a variety of different things. And a lot of these people had never invested in the stock market before. So it was their first time investing in the stock market. And they was investing when the stock market was down 30%, 35%. And it worked out for them. So there is opportunities in every crisis. And this is definitely a crisis. So let's go through these different ones. Larry Frank,
Think.
BlackRock,
Mm-hmm.
CEO. He made interesting commentary about Bitcoin. And this is interesting. Bitcoin is interesting because usually Bitcoin traditionally, previously, it wasn't directly tied to world economies and the US dollar, but now we see it's like a direct correlation. When the stock market goes down, Bitcoin goes down. They don't move opposite. Gold has been going opposite, but Bitcoin is pretty much like a tech company at this point. It moves as the stock market moves. And today it was down. But do you see a world where this is actually beneficial for Bitcoin with the dollar? Because the dollar went down also. That's another thing. Tariffs are actually supposed to make the dollar stronger, from my understanding. But in this case, the dollar is actually decreasing, right? And I guess a lot of that is just world sentiment that's kind of turning negative across America, but then a variety of other things that you talked about. So, okay. In this world of this is hurtful to America for sure, but could this be beneficial for Bitcoin?
Caleb, you want to take it first?
I'll take it first. I mean, we know that 50 odd million people own crypto in some way, shape, or form, but we also know that the top 1% own the most of it, right? And a lot of Bitcoin is owned by publicly traded companies like the MicroStrategy of the world that are basically Bitcoin treasuries. Even Tesla is like a Bitcoin treasury. So could be good just because of the scarcity aspect of it all. And we used to live in this world called TINA, right? There is no alternative to stocks because interest rates were so low. There was just stocks, right? You'd be a fool to invest in anything else until Bitcoin came along after the great financial crisis. Well, now you have this alternative asset. But for most people, they don't know how to turn Bitcoin, whatever Bitcoin holdings they have, into usable fiat to pay their utility bill, right? We still aren't at that level where it's just something I can I'll just Apple Pay with my Bitcoin right now. Now, you can in a very few cases, but when we're talking about the people that are going to get hurt the most by rising prices, stagflation, a potential recession, higher tariffs, Bitcoin is not going to be the answer for them. So it won't have that type of demand, that mass demand, like we thought it would at some point in time. At the same time, this is a deregulatory administration that has been promising to stockpile Bitcoin, add it to the reserves, mine its own Bitcoin, and I bet you will eventually let it into our 401ks. Fidelity announced that today or yesterday. You can now have Bitcoin in your 401k if you want. So it is going to become a little bit more ubiquitous, but it's not going to become more useful. And I think right now we need a really useful currency and a dependable currency to get through any type of crisis that we're going to go through. It's not going to be the answer for the masses. It's going to be the answer for the very rich. And that's another thing that makes me wonder, like, usually the stock market falling, into a correction was a stoplight for President Trump and Trump 1.0. It's not anymore, right? The 10-year Treasury yield spiking used to be, maybe we've gone too far here. It's not anymore. Why is that? They're deep into cryptocurrencies in that administration. In person, the Trump coin, the Melania coin, the family, all the different ETFs that they have associated with their coins and their meme coins, maybe they don't really care about what has been traditional ways of growing wealth in this country because they're into it digitally. And again, they're just here for now. I don't know.
It definitely feels, and this is why I feel like there's something that savior complex is coming into play at some point. It's just a matter of time, right? There was a time in Trump 1.0, like you said, if the market was going down, it was a concerning issue, right? To hear him say that the market is looking great as the Dow is down 1,500 points and the NASDAQ is down 1,000 points, it's concerning, right? And the people that it's going to affect, and I'll let both of you guys can answer, are the middle class, right? So when we're talking about the jobs coming back and we're talking about living wages, we're talking about government funding being cut, we're talking about government programming being cut, that directly affects the middle class. And so obviously a lot of people who are watching here tonight are part of that class. What is the solace that they can take in this at this point?
Man, I mean, is there any solace right now? I think it's hard to find any solace right now. I'm not sure about that one, man. I'm gonna jump off of Caleb's point really quick. Caleb, to your point, Trump family is deep into crypto. I mean, Eric Trump, I think maybe it was yesterday, came out with a headline saying that he was thinking about turning the family business, pivoting it fully into crypto. He's launching a Bitcoin mining company, just doing a lot with cryptocurrencies overall. I think when it comes to Bitcoin, at least for right now, I don't think it's the moment for Bitcoin. This is, again, my personal opinion. Caleb, again, to your point, a lot of those Bitcoin buyers, they were institutional buyers. They were companies and things like that. Right now, people are trying to de-risk their balance sheets and de-risk their portfolios, whether you're a tech company like a Tesla or you're an institutional big bank doing it right now. And also, they found their new thing, private credit. You saw a private credit ETF come out. So I think a lot of the interest when it comes to institutional buyers is private credit, which is basically private debt, loaning people money at high rates with basically higher levels of like collateral, or, you know, like you buy a house, you might put down 10%. Well, a private credit deal might be you have to put down 50% or give collateral up to 50%. So that's becoming a lot more of a lucrative part of the market, and also an area where they're hoping to get retail investors through ETFs, but institutional investors, a lot of money managers are pushing them towards private credit. So it seems like Wall Street, you know, they just find new things, whether back in the day it was mortgage-backed securities. Now it's private credit. For a while it was Bitcoin ETF. So I just don't know if right now is the time for Bitcoin. I'm going to be honest. I'm not a big cryptocurrency person. I hold some just to diversify my portfolio, but I'm not really sure which one's going to win. I don't think any of us know which one's going to win long-term, or if Bitcoin will even be a thing 10 years from now. Maybe it'll be all about Ethereum or Solana. I'm not really sure.
Right. So what is the asset besides your home that working families can hold on to try to continue to build wealth and pass it on to their generations? We've been teaching people for 50, 60, 70 years about the stock market. First, it was mutual funds, right? Then it was index funds. Then it was ETFs, right? And now there's half as many stocks on the publicly traded markets than there used to be. Why is that, Frank? Because it's a pain in the ass to be a publicly traded company, managing quarter to quarter, right? Shareholders up your butt, increasing your forecast going forward. What's wrong with your profit margins? You know, how come you don't have enough DEI or whatever? It's a really hard thing to be a publicly traded company in this country. There's a ton of regulation. Now they're going to remove some of that. And at the same time, you know, if there's going to be less publicly traded companies, and Wall Street keeps inventing new things to sell us in the form of private credit or private equity in an ETF wrapper, which is like, you know, as my friend Tyrone says, it's like putting a Ferrari engine in like a Buick, right? It's like you're not going to get the most out of it. What are they doing that for? They're finding different ways to securitize things, because the things that we have grown up investing in that were the building blocks of our wealth are becoming scarcer, and now the public markets, I'm afraid, are becoming less trustworthy.
Yeah, I don't have an answer. Yeah, obviously your personal residence is a great investment because you can live in it, and ideally it also appreciates. The other areas, I'm not sure. I think it just really depends. I mean, education is always a great investment, but the question is, what is that education? Yeah. College doesn't seem to make the same sense it once did. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people that graduate in debt and aren't really on a trajectory to ever get out of debt with the money that they're going to make if they plan to live even just a middle class lifestyle. You know, it's one thing if you go to college and you're going to live in a shack somewhere and save every penny, but who really wants to do that after spending 4 years in college?
I do believe that I still believe the stock market is going to eventually return to some sort of a mean return. I don't know if it'll be the 12, 13%.
I thought you meant outside of stocks, though.
Yeah, outside of stocks.
I still do think stocks are a great investment, especially over the long term, if you're willing to hold. Like on my show, I often question people. They go, I'm a long-term investor. I'm like, okay, but this is a show for people looking to make some short-term to intermediate moves. But in general, holding stocks over the long term is the safest investment by far.
Has been.
Yeah.
For sure.